All right, so next step of this project is to replace the variable pulley that's in here. I've already taken the battery out, but that's the pulley right down there. It's actually pretty simple to remove, but what we got to do first is take both the belts off of it so we can get under there, remove the single piece of hardware that's holding it to the bracket right here, and then that whole pulley will come off. So here's the replacement one. This is an off-brand aftermarket one from Amazon. It was 60 bucks. If you went with the OEM part, it's about 175 depending on where you go. That's well past the amount of money I want to spend on this lawn tractor to try and get it going again. But what we're going to do is just replace this thing. So the trick to getting this pulley off so we can get the belt off is get a really long extension and stick it through this hole right here. And you're going to kind of brace it up against the inside of the transmission. You guys can kind of see what I'm talking about here. Now I can see it a little bit better above, so I'm going to find probably the best place to put it so it's not going to mess up anything. And then we're just going to whip this 7/8 inch nut off, just break the torque, and then we can remove it by hand. And I'll show you guys the next step. All right, so hopefully you guys can see everything okay here, but I'm just going to kind of hold this back just a little bit so it's up against this bar, and then undo the torque, and there it went. So take the socket and ratchet out and extension. And now we're just going to pull the rest of it off by hand, just like that. Now this pulley, you can kind of see it's got a star pattern that goes on it. So all you're going to do is just kind of do that. So you'll notice we still have a little bit of tension on the belt. You have a tension spring under here, which puts tension on this whole pulley. And what we're going to do, this is stupid simple, makes it really easy to get everything back in and in place. But we're just going to get a piece of rope and feed it through the end here, let it go back on through, and then we'll use the same rope, pull it through the frame and out. You won't have to mess with any pliers, and you can just seat that spring right where it was supposed to go. Just like that. Pull it out, let it hang, and then you'll notice, you can see how it adjusts the tension on that belt pulley. So let it on back through. There we go. With all that tension removed, we should be able to pull this pulley up and off just like that. And we're just going to undo the belt from the variable pulley. Just like that. Push the big pulley back just to kind of get it set out of the way. Now we've got to get underneath the machine, take that single piece of hardware out that I mentioned earlier, and then shouldn't be too hard after that. This is the bolt we have to remove. It's a 1/2 inch. There we go. There's that. So you can see it's all loose now. I'll meet you guys up top. I don't know how much of this the camera is going to be able to see, but basically we're just going to pull the old one out, put the new one in. Simple as that. One thing I'm going to double check though is that our piece of hardware is going to go in, and it looks like it is. So I'm happy with that. We're just going to drop this in, feed the drive belt around this as we put it back in its spot there on the bracket, and then reinstall that bolt. Hopefully this thing will work perfectly fine. Honestly, I think it's about a 50-50 chance that this is going to fix our issue. All right, so that's back on and in place. So now I just need to go back down below, put that bolt back in. We're going to reset the spring after we get the transaxle belt on. Just stuck that bolt back into the pulley. So all we're going to do now is just reroute the transaxle belt and stick this pulley back where it's supposed to go. We want to make sure the front part of the belt is routed around the little pulley so you guys can see it a little bit easier. Make sure the belt is routed around there, that it doesn't come out of the little pulley. And then of course the back pulley, the star on this pulley is lined up. So what we're gonna do is just put the nut back on. So when we reset that spring, it's not gonna mess it about at all. But like I said, you just grab your rope, pull her back on through, just like that. So that's it. All I have to do now is just put some torque onto that nut. Same way it came off, just the reverse. Have to find a spot for the extension here to break up against so we can get the torque on it. Put the battery back in, and then hopefully this fixed our issue with this machine. So I just drove it around and it's still doing the same thing. It's not wanting to drive forward unless I put more tension on this. So I'm looking at the old pulley further, and there is a lot of ridges inside of it. It's amazing how much wear a rubber belt can do over time. I don't know how many hours this machine has on it, but I think it's actually quite a lot, more than I originally thought. And you're gonna see the different steps in it because you have different steps for speed. It's not like a normal throttle where you can pretty much set the thing anywhere you want. These are all preset. So you're gonna see these ridges start to build up in the pulley. Now, I could probably still run this pulley and be okay for quite a while, but it's not a bad idea to change it out anyways, especially because the new one was so cheap. Then that way I know it's got 2 new belts on it. It's got a brand new variable pulley. I will keep this one around. I'm not gonna scrap it just in case. But from what I've been reading, the issue with this is kind of what I feared. It's internal with the transmission, and I'll end up doing a video on it once I get the parts. But I'm gonna have to buy a couple different internal parts for this transmission and pull the transmission out and then fix it that way. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put a little bit more work into this to get it to run perfectly fine. And it seems like this is a pretty common issue with these transmissions. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more.